Prince Edward County offers some of the most unique and suitable soils for growing wine grapes in North America. The limestone soils favors Vitis vinifera vines, those that make some of the finest wines in the world, such as Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, Riesling, Chardonnay, Cabernet Franc, Marnier, and that would be just to name a few. The growing climate is marginal, which also favors excellent ripening of cool climate varieties. Lake Ontario is a prime influence, as in Niagara Falls, moderating harsh winter weathers and taking peaks off of summer weather. Starting in the year 2000, Prince Edward County has gone from less than 20 acres of high-quality European vines planted to over 600 acres, making Prince Edward County the second largest viticultural area in Ontario. In 2000, Prince Edward County had one winery. Today, they have almost a dozen, with more planned, and there is over $30 million invested in their exciting wine industry. Though there is a rich agricultural history, such as dairy, fruit, and vegetables, interest in planting grapes to produce fine wines has only developed in the past few years. The history of the Huff's estates families goes back to the 1820s when they settled in Prince Edward County as United Empire Loyalists. Involved mainly in agriculture, the Huffs farmed the land where the winery is located today. At one time in the area was named Huff's Corner. Construction of the winery was completed in 2003 and the grand opening was June 12, 2004. The state-of-the-art design places the barrel cellar and part of the retail store 4 feet underground. This allows for constant temperature and process called gravity flow, a gentle method of transferring wine. Huff Estates combines 3 vineyards, totaling to 45 acres of Vitis vinifera, planted in clay/loam soils rich with deposits of limestone, focusing on the following varietals: Cabernet Franc, Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay Merlot, and Pinot Gris.
Marketing for Prince Edward County wine is focused on 3 levels: seasonal tourist market and wine tours, estate winery market, and high-end or ultra-premium market. While Huff Estates is offered and marketed in the LCBO as well as in restaurants, Hinterland is on a much smaller scale and focuses on word of mouth and support of high-end restaurants such as the Chef's House at George Brown College, Canoe, Granite Club, Harvard Room, and Harbor 60.
It looks a lot like European vineyards. If you go to some of the great European vineyards, they look a lot like this. Some people say that it's exactly the same. I totally disagree. I think we are what we are. I think we have similarities to different places, but we're Prince Edward County, and we'll see. I mean, we're a very young region, and age of vines often will determine, what's to come, kind of thing. So. Traditional vineyard, you'll see it was about knee height. You'll have your fruiting wire will be right here, and your fruit will be right here. I'm about 12 inches below that, so my fruiting wire sits about 6, and everybody's, not just mine, except unless you're growing hybrids, which I can tell you about in a second. But I'm about 6 inches off the ground, which is a problem in some ways because grapes love, fungus love grapes. Grapes don't love fungus. But it's way more humid closer to the ground, and it's way more wet, and of course all your funguses. We only opened in September, and we only have 500 cases, and so we've had good success in restaurants in terms of placements, but I mean, even there, I mean, there's a bigger problem with Ontario wine and people's perception of Ontario wine. And so while the sommelier loves it, because the sommelier, generally speaking, is a pretty educated person, knows what a good wine is, likes good wine, and wants to buy my wine because he or she likes it. It gets on the list, and it sits there. and just sits and sits and sits. And I'm not complaining. I'm grateful for the listings I've got, actually. But it's the customer on the other side still thinks that we're in the 70s, and we haven't evolved, we haven't learned how to grow grapes, we haven't learned how to make good wine, and they still believe that it's the Ontario wine of Brights and Baby Duck and all the rest. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, I used to do that. I used to sell wine, and it was hard. More about authenticity. I think that's what people really want. I don't think they necessarily want to know that their food came from 100 miles away or whatever because 100 miles in Canada is not very far, right? But they just want to know that it came from a place and that it came from a person. And that's why, I mean, we are going to clean up the barn a little bit, but at the moment we're not trying to put too much polish on it. It's a deliberate marketing move to say, and plus I can't afford it, but it's a deliberate marketing move to say this is real. I'm here every day, and if I'm not here, we're closed, right? Kind of thing. So, and I think the county has done a nice job in terms of marketing the whole region, because it's not just wine. There's organic lambs, and there's Vicky's Veggies, who's doing organic veggies, and there's all kinds of little maple syrup producers and stuff like that are all trying to get a bit of a draw down here. But frankly, we're 170 miles from Toronto, and that's our market. A little bit in Ottawa, but that's even further.
They could do with some signs.
Yeah.
My signs?
It's the heart. No, not
Oh, around here?
we
I know.
find-
Unsold grapes that are just going to get cut to the ground, and growers who have been growing grapes for hundreds and hundreds of years, or hundreds, let's say the industry started in the 70s, so 30 years they've been growing grapes, and now their fruit is not sold. And a lot of that problem is, and I'm not standing on a soapbox by any stretch, but a lot of that problem has to do with the fact that there is a program now. If you have a winery license pre-1983, or it might be 85, you're allowed to import as much international fruit and grapes and wine as you want. So, and not to get on the big guys or the corporate style wineries, which we're clearly not, but Vincor types, yeah, they just bring it in. They just bring it in from Chile, where the guy in the vineyard's making $1 an hour. They don't ever have to do anything in the vineyard because it's so arid. There's no humidity. There's zero rain, and they can crop their vineyards at 4 tons an acre and still get the same quality. They bring that in at 30 cents a liter. They stick it in a bottle with 10% Canadian fruit, so they basically wave a grape over the vat, and they sell it for $11, and they put Cellared in Canada on the label. So people are looking at that label and they're going, Cellared in Canada? That's Canadian wine, I'm going to buy that.
As Mercedes Sonati of Globe and Mail said in June of 2008, Prince Edward County is a fertile island bursting with vineyards, organic farms, and a community of artists and chefs. Tucked into the Golden Triangle between Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa, it is the province's newest designated viticultural area, which helps identify the origin of wine and its grapes.